Hello, Instagram. Hello, YouTube and LinkedIn. Welcome to the Script Supervisor Power Hour. I am Daniela Saioni. I am so grateful to my YouTube. I'm grateful to the Instagram audience too, but I'm so grateful to the YouTube audience. You guys, you've brought me to over 10K subscribers. It was a goal I had to get to by my birthday, which is in June, and we got there on Friday night. Thank you so much. I was on set when I heard. For those who don't know or who have never been to a Script Supervisor Power Hour, I basically go live every single week with my students in my Director Whisperer training program. But sometimes I take it public to the world, especially at times when, the industry is in an interesting place. And it has been looking up in many parts of the world. How do I know this? Because, well, I have students in 30 countries, so I have a global perspective, not totally global, but 30 countries global. It's a lot of countries. Most of the countries where films are made are where we have director whisperers, script supervisors at various levels in the profession. Mostly my work is geared towards people in their first 10 years. I've been doing script for 34 years, but I do have people with almost as much experience as me in the program. I see some people are tuned in on Instagram. If you tune in on Instagram, I can see your questions if I look over, but I can see all your questions here. If you're on LinkedIn and YouTube, normally I like to start with hallelujahs, and hallelujahs are like the good news that people may have for us. We did a bunch of hallelujahs in our class yesterday. Let's see, Max in London has joined the Directors Guild. Hallelujah. If you don't know, a lot of script supervisors, a fair number actually, go on to become directors. And there's a really good reason for that, especially in television, but people do go on to become directors in other mediums. It's just in television, we happen to be one of the most promoted positions. And if you don't know what script supervisors do, please take a gander at some of the videos in my script supervision playlist on YouTube, because often people don't know. They don't know the extent of the work we do, and how closely it relates to the director's role. And certainly in the way I teach it, I immerse you guys in the role of the director first, so we may be of great service to them. Feel free to post your hallelujahs if you have any. The work is returning. I'm deep into a show. I have 2 weeks left on my current show. I am on a Netflix feature, a Christmas comedy, so you guys will see it at Christmas. That's all I'm going to say about that, except we've been working in minus 26 Celsius all week. You can see behind me, Toronto is pretty snowy. I'm high up. I'm on a higher floor. There's a building patio behind me, so it looks like I'm on the main floor. But it's been really cold. I guess I can answer one of the questions I get a lot today, which is, how do you keep your electronics going in the Canadian winters? All right. But we'll answer that in a sec. I just want to figure out what else I wanted to tell you. It's been total joy working on this show. Listen, Toronto's really busy. I understand not every area is fully up to speed yet in the world. I understand that. But a number of the hallelujahs are people getting calls, getting interviews, getting booked in different regions, and more regions. I just heard that Louisiana lost their tax credit. I'm so sorry to hear that. A lot of regions are gaining and amping up their tax credits. We have a number of director whisperers in British Columbia, so congratulations, BC, on getting that boost in your tax credit. Newfoundland just announced a few months ago a phenomenal tax credit. For those, maybe actually Europe has some great ones too. Like the UK has a 40% one that's in effect already for 10 years. I worked in Italy last year. I'm an Italian citizen, and they had a 40% tax credit. I think it may have been modified or gone. I'm coming to Italy in a couple of months, so I'll get the scoop. I see so many people tuned in on Instagram, and we've got 7 on YouTube. Say hello in the chat. Let me know if you have any hallelujahs. It's okay if you don't yet. I tell you guys this so just to know that when it starts to get busy, it starts to get busy. Like I'm already exhausted. Like, I mean, I'm old. I'm in my 50s. I'm older, so I get tired easily. But I'm 2 weeks away from finishing my first movie of the year, and I'm already tired. So maybe that's just me. And the phone has been ringing for the months ahead. I've already been getting calls for the summer. I know it's going to be busy. So for those who are not yet busy, I have every confidence that you will be. Do you have any questions? Feel free to ask me anything, whether you're my student or not. We did our student live yesterday, so we got a lot done. If there are no questions, I can start with the one I get a lot. How do you keep your electronics going? How do you survive in the Canadian winters when you're shooting in sub-zero temperatures? I tell you, I should have brought my gloves out. I have these gloves that are fingerless, but the mitten sort of goes over. I'll post a picture on my, I can't post a picture, can I? I don't know how to post a picture on here. But anyway, I'll post it on my regular Facebook page. They come in super handy because you can write, and I also have these other gloves that cover my whole hand and you can still use your electronics with them. I prefer like the fingerless ones. A lot of people have told me to buy the heated vests and the heated socks that are electric. I still have not done that, and I've been okay. Listen, I did -40 weather in Shazam for like a month because we shot nights on the original Shazam, and I was okay with I have a parka rated to -40. It's a Canada Goose. I take the fur off. We have a no fur policy on the set I'm on right now, but some people. I understand, but I take the fur off, and the coat itself is just fine. I have this thing that my director has called a necky, which is which is just like this tube that goes from here to here, and it's fleece, and it is. I swear to God, like if I have that and my parka, like I'm good, and 2 pairs of socks. And make sure your boots are rated to, my boots are rated to -20. They were almost not warm enough. Our director learned the hard way. He's from Brooklyn and he had to buy gear to survive. Is anyone shooting right now? Is anyone shooting? I know if you're in Australia, you might be actually in the extreme heat. I'd rather work in the cold than the heat. How about you guys? I don't mind it actually. The Shazam one was a little tough. Does anyone, I see a lot of people who are not my students logged in. Do you have any questions about either my program or about script supervision in general? Have people given up? I know that for the last sort of bit of 2024, there was even some of my own students were ready to just give up, and then the work started coming. And I know we're very geographically fortunate in some ways in Canada. So I think some of the work, I think the wave of work has sort of come here earlier than most places, but it's still there. It's still happening for the Americans. Anyone? No questions, eh? Let me think what else I want to tell you. I can reiterate some of the questions we got in our live Q&A yesterday. And because if one person has the question, often more than one person, there are other people with the same question. One of my newest students yesterday asked me about our relationship with the editor and how often we communicate with the editor. And I have very specific training about that as to what we do in prep. I can reiterate it sort of generally. We actually, so there are a couple of countries, believe it or not, that where the script supervisor does stay on in post. The Czech Republic is one of them, which one of my students told me is now called Czechia. So in the former Czech Republic, Czechia, they actually bring on the script supervisor in post to sit with the editor and answer any questions and help locate footage, which I thought was kind of brilliant. And then some of my students in Nigeria told me that it's common practice in Nollywood for the script supervisor to join the editor for a day in post. And that's, if you guys already took I had a course going called, and it's still on actually, I have a free offer. If you look for my video on my YouTube page, it says, what script supervisors do on their wrap days. That's normally like a 47 US course. I have it on for free. So if you go to that video, there's a link underneath there where you can click on it, and there's a coupon code. Just type in the coupon code and it'll charge you $0. But in that talk, I talk about the standard way we use our wrap time in North America and UK and Europe. And that is we prepare the archival quality line script, and we make sure all the math on our top sheets lines up to 0, or that if there's anything remaining, that we list out what the shots that are going to be picked up, like maybe in another country, are. That is pretty standard. But in Nollywood, they actually deliver that in person to the editor, and they sit with the editor and have a meeting, which I think is super cool. I am going to be visiting Post on my show. Our show is being posted in New York City. I love the Post facility that Netflix has there. I went on another show I did for Netflix. I went to that same facility near Gramercy, which is like the area that I stay in when I'm in New York. I encourage everyone to actually visit the editor in Post, but to answer the question more fully, in prep, we have a meeting with the editor, usually on Zoom, because usually the editor is in another city. If they're in the same city, go up to the cutting room and meet them in person. I usually meet with the editor and assistant editor, and if there's any other trainees, they were usually on that call. And I go through, I give them examples of my paperwork and say, this is what you can expect to see. Any questions, any modifications? The format that I teach everyone in my program, it's digital, but it's not any of the huge software options that are out there. Everyone is free to do whatever they want, but I think it's super important to start with knowing the job really well before you lock into one of the softwares. And my students, they run the gamut. They range from just pen and paper, from being a digital script supervisor the way that I teach it with OpenOffice. The reason people are like, why do you teach it in OpenOffice? I said, well, that's the system I use. I have used it on, Suits, on $200 million features, on everything I do. It's industry standard because it's got all the components that Post looks for. And it's also, it's very, very flexible. I can, if the editor says, for instance, on this show, I have a world-class editor, which I often am so lucky. I get to work with world-class editors. But he said, can you make the font bigger? And so I was able to make the font 18 point, and he was blown away. He's like, people don't normally do that for me, but it's so easy on OpenOffice. But the other reason I use that software is because, look, I'm teaching to people all over the world, and including third world countries. They're not going to be able to afford some of the softwares that, some of the great and popular softwares. I don't use them. It doesn't mean I don't think they're great. I love Anthony Patine. He's one of my favorite people that I've met in the business, and he owns and co-created Scripty. So, I'm not poo-pooing anything. I just don't teach those because I think the people who are masters at those should teach us. I teach you guys how I do it, and I teach you guys the job. And because I've been at every level of Hollywood, from super indie to really, really high box office, I have and TV and film, I have a pretty solid understanding. And by the way, I've worked in 10 countries. There are differences from region to region, and there's differences that I haven't experienced yet that are in Australia, New Zealand, for example. I found out there's a third system of slating. I teach the two that are most common here in North America and in the UK, but there's a third one in Australia, New Zealand. I'm going to have one of my students from that side of the world come and do a little talk on that. I forget the name. It has a different name. And there are differences I'm hearing from my students in Indonesia, that script supervisors take on different responsibilities regionally. Sorry, I'm digressing from the original question. Editors. So yeah, you want to have that meeting with the editors and editor and team, and figure out the expectations, figure out when they want your notes by. Most of the time I'm dealing with editors cutting in LA, which is 3 hours behind me. So as long as I get it to them before they hit the cutting room at 7 a.m. Or the assistant editor, because you'll see, you'll see in the course, I have an interview with one of the best first assistant editors in Canada, and she was Dawn Stoliar is her name, and she was saying, the assistant editor starts before the editor comes in, and they do all this prep with our notes, and they upload our as read file into Avid, which I talk about in the Wrap Day course. If you, by the way, that coupon code is only good till the end of February. So if you're interested in grabbing that, just make sure you do it before Saturday, because it's already March next Saturday. So yeah, that initial meeting with the editor is super important. And then in prep, we attend a post workflow meeting. And that is a meeting where the head of post for the network or the studio is usually there. Our post-production supervisor for the movie or TV show is usually there. The editor's there, and then camera and sound. And we learn a lot of minutia, what sounds like minutia, but they're very important, like what kind of time code are we using? When are the deliverables due? What are the deliverables? And expectations are laid out, and technical specs are laid out. Very important meeting to attend, which I'm always surprised. They often forget to invite us. So you have to kind of go, post workflow meeting. I work for post, so I need to be there. The editor is the other boss of us besides the director. And then during shooting, it's just, as I told Zelda, my student, it's just the communication is usually just the daily notes package that you send. And if there's any issues, or if there's any, I call this, this little thing called, I call this thing called, sorry, I'm like stumbling. Love letters from the editor. That's what I was trying to say. We have a thing in the course called love letters from the editor. And whenever an editor sends you an email praising your work or just saying how you made their life easier, we post it for each other inside the group. So I got my love letter from the editor 4 days into the show. That's pretty good. I usually get it before, closer to the end. But yeah, usually the only communication is if there's a problem. Sometimes the first assistant editor will contact you by email. It's usually by email, sometimes by text or call, whatever you've set up with them. That's sort of the level of communication. And then what you deliver to them on that wrap day should be thorough enough in the way that I outline in that course that you probably won't hear from them unless you go and visit the cutting room yourself. And whether you're working in studio or network or indie features or projects, I always advise my students to go into the cutting room and meet the editor face to face and ask them what you could have done better. What was, it's such an illuminating part of the process, especially when I started out in the 90s. When we shot on film and we shot with very few cameras, as opposed to now where it's like a barrage of cameras. But as I was learning, as I was developing this course, I started teaching this in 1995 full on, but I started in 91. So that was pretty young to start teaching, but I had spent my early years really, really talking to a lot of editors and directors about how we could serve them better, what I was doing that was helping them or not. And that's how I formulated the first draft of my Director Whisper training program. No one's got a hallelujah to share. If you're frustrated about something, or if you're frustrated even about work, please do share. I'm here for you. I'm here for it. I like some of my students in LA are working. I know many are not. So I know LA is sort of in the hardest place right now. But there are people actually working. I saw some comments on the online forums about vertical productions, and some people still, and listen, I can't even do vertical productions because I'm an IATSE member. They're not union shows. So I always want to experience what my students are experiencing if I can. And if I can't, because I can't do those shows, because they're just not union shows, I have to, I like to ask them about their experiences. And so for those who are curious about what the hell is going on with vertical production, there's a panel I did a few months ago on my YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it yet, it's called The Vertical Wave. And I interviewed 2 people in LA and 1 in Atlanta who had done, and listen, I was supposed to interview Carissa McQueen, who works like a ton on everything in LA, but also on verticals. And she had to cancel her spot because she was on a vertical. So we had one of the director whispers in training, who is a really seasoned intimacy coordinator who had worked on 50 verticals on that panel. So it's a really, really, really interesting, enlightening conversation as to what to expect, what you take away, when you're, because our job is so all encompassing, and the speed of production on verticals, just like with a lot of those like 15-day Hallmark movies or 12-day Hallmark movies, the speed is so intense that you can't do everything to your full capacity. Sadly, a lot of those productions also eliminate a lot of prep time, which is, I think, one of the biggest issues facing us, that we face as script supervisors. Oh, talk about hallelujahs. I have something really cool to report. Dora in Budapest, one of our top direct. By the way, I want to do a panel of my Europeans. I have some superstar European script supervisors. I'll include the UK. And I mean, I have so many superstars in the UK, but I have these incredible people working in different European nations. Dora is one of them in Hungary. Her hallelujah is that she's booked for a year. She's booked for a full year on a series, and I believe her second project is a feature. Huge. But the even better news is that they gave her an assistant. They hired an assistant for her on the feature, and that is a huge hallelujah. If you are curious about how you would use, this is a question I get a lot too, how would you use an assistant script supervisor? Because this is the thing, in North America, unless you're in Quebec, where assistants are more common. Listen, I've had a couple of times an assistant in Toronto, but it's extremely rare. It is on the books in our union local that there's a rate for assistants, and it's a really good rate too, because it matches the assistant rate in every other department, right? It's just that it's not been enacted in Toronto. Here's the thing about our profession. It's when I started in 1991, as I said, we'd probably shoot with one camera, maybe occasionally two. Now it's 2 to 3 normally, and you see productions shooting with 4 to 10. Like we've all been there when they suddenly pull out 10 cameras. But the other thing about our profession is that in the past 25 years, the turnaround time for editing, really since we've gone digital, the adding of cameras has been a result of the world going digital and no longer shooting on film, not cutting between takes, all the stuff that makes things really intense in our role. The speed at which post-production has to turn around and edit has shrunk, where there might have been in the past months to turn around, a locked picture. It's now, does any type in the chat if like you've had a super crazy, I'm trying to remember what our tightest turnaround time has been. I think on one show I did, like, I think it was a pilot, they had 10 days to turn in the cut, which is like kind of bonkers, because you're talking film and sound cut, right, for approval. But I mean, and I've been on shows where they were cutting almost right till they aired. A true story. So yeah, it's one of those shows, so very complicated. In 2005, I did this miniseries called The Path to 9/11, and it was, I call it my Vietnam. It was like the hardest show I've ever done. We shot 1 million feet of film with 4 to 8 cameras every day, and they had 4 cutting teams, but there was only just me. And it was a 7-hour show. It was a 7-hour miniseries, and they got sued, rightly so, by the Democrats for creating fake history, and they had to cut out 1.5 hours of the movie like a week before they went to camera. So they were editing, before they aired. So they were, it was aired on like the 5th anniversary of 9/11, and they had to cut 1.5 hours out of the movie the week before they aired. I was I was laughing. I mean, it was a lot. Yeah. I shouldn't say too much. But that's already happened over 20 years ago. Does anyone have any questions? So the thing about having an assistant now, they've basically tripled our workload and tightened our turnaround times. Not everyone is getting a wrap day or days. Not everyone is getting enough prep time. So it's more work, less prep, potentially less wrap time, it's an onslaught. And so rightfully so, there's a movement afoot in North America to make assistant script supervisors more of a normal thing, as they are in other countries. In Canada, the reason that it's a thing in Quebec is there's the British system of filmmaking. So Canadians who don't know this, before American service productions really started to take off in our country in the 1980s, before that, we were under the British system, meaning not under the British system. We were trained as filmmakers in the British system, which included assistant script supervisors, right? Amongst other things. The Americans still freak out when they're like, what do you mean? What's the window? The window shot is our version of what Americans call the martini. Because I guess you go, when you wrap, you go and have your martini. The reason it's called the window in Canada and in the UK is because at wrap, technicians would go to the pay window and get paid in cash at the end of their workday. And so the window shot was the shot before you went to the window. Right. And so if you're American and watching this, that's the story when you shoot up here, when you see that referred to that way. Nobody has a single question. Maybe I'm not saying it's okay if you don't. I know that you guys are here and usually more people tune in. If you stay till the end, by the way, I have an off. I always give offers when I go live. So I have kind of like a bonkers kind of crazy one because I'm so happy and excited about the 10K thing. So good. As you guys know, my channel is both about script supervision and screenwriting. So I have an offer that combines both things. I'm excited. You might not be excited. I don't know. We'll see. I'll leave it up until the end of February. So the offer that I tell you about at the end, we'll leave it up for the rest of the week. For those watching in replay, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any hallelujahs? Even if you're one of my directing students, I'm so proud of people just, when things got slower, a lot more people started writing, started shooting, started exploring sort of the reasons that we got into the business in the first place, many of us, because we are filmmakers. And listen, the way I approach script supervision as director whispering is very much we are a filmmaker, but I love when people create original work. They create the projects that they want to see in the world. And more of you were doing that during the downtimes, or at least writing. So congratulations. My own script is making the round. Oh yeah, this makes me so happy. I have a script, a 1-hour pilot that I co-wrote with Paul Hopkins, who, if you remember, Amistad Mopin's Further Tales of the City, he played Mouse. He's a really gifted actor. And we wrote this pilot as a role for him that's really going up the food chain at the Atlanta Film Festival. So we're going to find out March 7th if we make finalist. If we make finalist, I'm coming back to Atlanta. I loved it. I went in September, the day after the hurricane, for the first time, because we have about 40 director whisperers in Georgia. And I want to say about 15 of them came to the meetup. There's nothing I love better than doing meetups in towns where I have students either in writing or script supervision or both. And the people in Atlanta were so nice. And I also invite other locals, of course. It's always great when script supervisors talk to each other. It's the only way that we're going to be able to stick together and get the rates that we deserve, because a lot of people are still working non-union. Like not every location has a union, or the ones that do, some states like Georgia, they can go union or non-union because it's a right to work state. And those in California, even if you're union, you are allowed to work non-union. It's not the case here. It's not the case in every local. Once you're a union member, you're a union member. But what do you do if you're in the non-union world? How do you make sure you get a fair rate? We got to talk to each other. We got to make sure we're all sort of agreeing on what is an amount, and amount for kit and camera bump and all of that, which I know in the UK you guys don't have a camera bump, but again, we talk to each other, so maybe we can change that even on the European side. In the UK, I got my camera bump in Italy. I got my usual conditions and terms that I get in North America. I got when I shot Another Simple Favor. Oh my God, are you guys excited for Another Simple Favor? It's coming out May 1st on Amazon. I think it's one of the best movies I've ever worked on. I hope everybody gets a chance to see it. Hi, Suzanne. About to work on my first commercial. Any pointers? I've 20 years experience in drama, use Scripty and Scriptation. Thanks, Suzanne. Oh, great. I know that Scripty has a commercial kind of mode, like I think because I know I've done a lot of commercials, but my last commercial I want to say was maybe 2018. So I haven't done them in a while, and I've certainly not done them using Scripty. The thing that Suzanne, you're not in my class, right? So in my program, there's a little short module on commercials, because like literally it's such a fraction of what we do in drama. You're going to be fine. The thing is to not get bored because it's so much less. Okay, so first of all, one of the major differences between long form and commercials is we're looking at time in tenths of a second. It's very precise, right? So we usually don't get a prep day, but if you see my interview, I have an interview with Celine Streleski, who we called Queen Celine in Toronto. She just recently retired, but Celine was a career. She had done long form, but she loved doing commercials. She really, really made her name in commercials. And I have a 90-minute interview with her on this channel. I think it's under the Veterans interview series, that playlist. And she has a lot of tips. So she's successfully fought for prep time for commercial script supervisors. But whether you get prep or not, it's a much shorter, like basically I read I make sure I get the package as soon as it's available. With commercials, it can be very last minute, like the night before, sometimes even the morning of, because it goes through several layers of approval. The thing about commercials is there's three sort of major bodies. So there's the client. So let's say it's a Coca-Cola commercial. Coca-Cola is the client. So the client hires the production company, which is the second entity, right? Orders the agency. Just so on Mad Men, Sterling Cooper was the agency. So the client hires the agency, who hires the production company, the third entity, and the production company hires us, the script supervisor, and the rest of the crew. So when you're looking for work, for people looking for work in commercials, you want to become known to the the biggest sort of commercial production houses in your area. They will often reach out to like they'll look on union lists or Bec2 lists or et cetera, and look for people who have experience. They'll just assume you can do it, and you can. Like, trust me, it's much easier than long form. But you want to make sure that when you're recording times of your shot, that it's in tenths of a second. So 10.1 seconds, 10.3 seconds. The reason is each of it's well, you want to find out, is it airing on TV or the web? On the web, obviously, the web. I sound so old when I say that. I don't think people say the web anymore online, on the internet, because if it's a commercial for the web, it's not as, it doesn't have to fit into like 30 seconds, right? You know how in long form, if we're off in our timings, we get about 2 minutes of leeway on like a 1 hour televised show, or 1 minute of leeway like on a half-hour show. But on a commercial, you get 1 second. There are, on it, let's say they have 30 seconds to air. So usually some typical commercial times are like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, and then there are variations on that for the web. They'll give you a script that'll say the time. They will usually also have an animatic. Ask the production company when they send you that binder that has the script, or that binder, it's all digital now, but the info package that has the script or scripts. Usually we shoot multiple spots at a time. They'll shoot a 15-second version, a 30-second version. They might shoot English and French versions, or English and Spanish if you're in the US. You're probably doing a suite of commercials rather than just one, but you might be doing just one. So read each script, time them out. Just know that if an animatic exists, that is like a sort of animated version with voiceover of the spot, right? You can literally go and time out each shot in the animatic, and that's your timing budget. So, and time it out to tenths of a second. Oh, that opening shot, the pan across is like 1.2 seconds. 30 seconds for TV. Okay, great. So you have 1 second of leeway within each. And the reason I say you have 1 second of leeway, they have these machines which can speed up the pace of the talking, and it's undetectable up to 1 second. Beyond 1 second, you can hear the pitch change. So that's why I mean, like it's precise within 1 second for every 30 seconds. Okay. So they will have, responsible agencies. They do pre-time it. They even do animatics. Not everybody does animatics, but most people do these days now because it's not expensive. So watch that animatic if it exists. Time out each shot. So you know that when you're doing that master shot, you need 1.2 good seconds. Sometimes I've been on commercials where the DOP would yell out, time, like they just shoot and shoot and shoot, and they want to hear the timing, and they'll ask you, okay, what's the budget for this shot? It's 1.2 seconds, and like we may go 1.3, 1.4, what, and the some DOPs are that cognizant of time. Some of them don't care. Listen, there's some that don't care. I was on a show on a commercial where it was all slow motion shots. It was like, and it had graphic words that came across the screen. It was a Canadian tax benefits commercial, right? And it was all voiceover in English and French. And I got to set. When you get to set on a commercial, you probably will not have had prep. So you want to introduce yourself to the client, to the agency producer, and also, of course, to the director and the production company producers. You're going to end up going between all three of them. The client and the agency are kind of together. The agency producer is your point of contact for that side. They're going to be sitting in a completely different area, but you're kind of the go-between. I always tell people, if you can dress up, like dress corporate. The only time I didn't, I was doing a Tim Hortons Camp Day commercial, and we were in the mud all day and it was cold, so I didn't wear fancy clothes. But it's a much more corporate world than we're used to in long form. Listen, I wear dresses in long form anyway, but go back, and you're going to go back and forth between the director that you're working beside and the client, because you got to hear their notes and incorporate their notes into your notes. They may differ, right? The director might have different ideas and the client may not know much about filmmaking. That's the other thing, right? They may not know why a certain shot can't be used for a technical reason. They'll just be like, nope, that's the take we like. So make sure that you indicate very clearly in your notes what is a client note, what is an agency note, and what is a director's note. Very political. It's very political. Dress up if you can. Make sure you introduce yourself in the morning. So I got to set on this one commercial many years ago, and the French agency producer, because we were doing English and French, was just yelling, the French doesn't time out to 30 seconds. And she was like screaming at me. I said, well, luckily it's a voiceover ad. So you have full flexibility to tweak the words and everything, because we're just shooting visuals. It wasn't anyone speaking on camera. And because that person didn't have like a ton of experience, I don't think, because they didn't understand that concept about, well, it's voiceover, so you still have time to edit it, right? So eventually, but like I walked in and that's what I was greeted with. So yeah, just know they may have varying levels of experience in filmmaking. By the way, on that commercial, I introduced myself to the director and I went, oh my God, I just met the agency producer and they were really upset. And he's like, yeah, just stick with me. But I still had to follow him. And after every take, you need to know what the client and agency thought of the take. So you kind of follow the director. As I don't know about you, Suzanne, but I follow the director everywhere on set, regardless, whether it's long form. We've been shooting in -26. I had the option of staying inside with the producers and watching the big monitors. I'm not going to do that. I got to go in and talk to actors. I got to hear the director's notes. I was out there with my, what I call my necky, the neck thing, the hat, using my headphones as earphones, my parka, all day, which here means 12 hours a day, although it was 10 hours because we had daylight. We had to just deal with daylight hours. So yeah, I'm following the director anyway. So I bet that's part of your practice if you've been doing it for 20 years. Just know that you're also very concerned with, because unlike in features where the director is king or queen, or in television where the showrunner is king or queen, in commercials the client, yes, Suzanne says yes, you have to be by them to whisper. Yes. And some people don't whisper. I had someone remark, like, why do you call it whispering? It's like we use our out loud voice. Yes, I understand. I'm very quiet. I'm very quiet. So yeah, so there's that. So the timing is in tenths of a second. You can pre-time, you'll get storyboards. You'll get the animatic and or storyboards. usually both. They print out, I don't know if this is still the case. They probably digitally, so they used to print out like hard copies of each frame. And I say they, the video assist person would actually print out frames. And there's like a big storyboard board that usually a PA is taking the hard copies and putting up what we've shot over the storyboard frame. I don't know if that's still the practice because, like I said, it's been 2018 since I've been on a commercial set. Does anyone know if that's still the practice? On one set, they're like, Script always does that. And I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, okay. But I would at that time, they would give me 2 copies. One would go on the board and one would go in my notes. I'd literally tape it in my notes. I believe the last few commercials I did get playback to send them to me digitally. And if you have Q-Take, you're taking digital stills anyway, right? All of that. You've seen a commercial requester. Oh, hi, Stephanie. Nice to see you. Yeah. I mean, I think it's old school. I think some of the old school people will still do that and will still have it. It's their way of ensuring, okay, we got that. It's very different from long form in the sense that there's almost no improvisation. Sometimes there's dialogue improvisation in funny commercials, but it's usually very much, this is what we've planned. This is what we're going to execute shot by shot, moment by moment. And there's almost no deviating. And if there is, it's something that the client has requested because the client is, like I said, in that world, the client is king, queen, God, Allah, whatever. Hi, James. Nice to see you. We're here talking about script supervising, and someone was just asking me about commercials. Suzanne, I'm so excited for you. It's actually really fun. Like I would personally be bored if all I did was commercials. That's just me. I love the challenge of having so many balls in the air. Another thing that is, with an animatic, it's solved. But back in the day, like one of the craziest commercial stories I ever heard was there was like a hair commercial where this woman on a porch was like, I'm blah, 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 and I use whatever shampoo she was promoting. And it was one shot, right? So the idea was to get it all in one shot, and they'd go time. And the script supervisor would be like, 32 seconds, 20, obviously they were doing a 30-second commercial. So they finally got a few good takes at 30 seconds and they went home and they had to reshoot because they did not do storyboards for it because it was one shot, and they didn't, no one thought we need 3 seconds for the product shot. The product shot is super important in commercials. So it will be included in the storyboards and animatics, but if one doesn't exist, always ask, how much time should I allot for the product shot? The director I'm working with right now used to shoot music videos, and after music videos, he shot commercials, and he said, and he thought when they were doing the product shot that he could go home because he doesn't stick around for insert shots. He considered it like an insert in a long form drama. And they're like, in commercials, the product shot is the money shot, right? So he didn't realize how important. So just know that they're probably going to spend a lot of time shooting the product. If there is a product shot that you're filming, sometimes it might be animated or it might be graphics, but just always make sure you ask about the product shot. They had to reshoot in those days. People were spending $250,000 or more, like $250,000 to $1 million on 30-second commercials, right? Sometimes even more than that. So that was a big expense for reshoot. Anyone else? That's a great question. I haven't talked about commercials in a long time because I haven't done them, but I see more and more people getting commercial gigs recently. And some people, that's how they got through some of the harder times during the strike. Anyone else? Great questions. Time check. We've still got 18 minutes. I'll tell you at 5:02, I'll tell you the offer I'm making today. And is anyone, so Suzanne, you're in the UK, right? Am I getting that right? I'd love to hear where people are if you're tuning in from different countries. We have a huge contingent in Serbia in my program. So I am going to Italy this month. Yes, you're in London. Yes. Suzanne, I met you, right? Did I meet you at the last meetup? Now I'm remembering. I think am I right in remembering that you were the person who also shot in Italy? And if not, anyway, I recognize your name a lot. Yes, in the pub. Yes, Suzanne. Oh my God, you're so nice. Love Suzanne. I was so lucky I got to shoot there this year. I think you said you did White Lotus, right? I did Another Simple Favor. So yeah, I'm going back to Italy because I have a house there, and I was going to pop over to Belgrade if I can. There's more work there's a movie that's tempting me here in Toronto for May. So if I take that movie, I will come back early and then come back again to Europe later this summer. But I do want to visit my students in Belgrade. And then Slovenia asked me to come do a talk in person. So we're sort of working that out. So I may be sort of in that, but I'm definitely coming to London before I go to Italy. So I should be in London at some point in May, and we'll do another meetup. So wow, it's going to be your first commercial after 20 years. You're going to be like, really? Commercials are this easy? The other fun thing about commercials, I don't know if it's this way in the UK, but in Canada, you get a 10-hour minimum pay, and the hourly pay is nice. It's a good rate. And there's like a 10-hour minimum. So even if you work 3 hours, you get paid for 10, which is fun because multiple times in commercials, I've worked 3 hours because they were so easy to execute that we got it in 3 hours. I mean, most of the time they're shorter days. Yes. I see more I see more people tuning in on Instagram as well. Any other That was a really good question. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about commercials. Just make sure you get all the information from production. Yes, pay here is a good rate, better than drama, but it's only 3 days and no prep. Oh, you have a 3-day commercial. Phenomenal. So, like, commercials can range from 1 day to like 1 week, right? And yeah, it might be worth a watch to watch Celine's How She Director Whispers in commercials, because when Celine was doing it, they would give her they hired her because she was like already like 15 20 years into long form before she really committed to commercials, because they would give her brand new directors, and they would get her to really make sure that they got what they needed. It was really great. You're going to log the clips, don't know. Oh, that is right. Logging the clips. That's something I never used to do, and I still don't do it in long form. But my students who do a lot of commercials told me that is a commercial practice, to log the clips. So on the metadata, if I'm assuming you'll have QTake or something that shows the metadata on screen, there's the clip number on the bottom. So yes, absolutely. That is something that my students told me they do now as a matter of course, and it just helps the assistant editor find everything and ensure everything is there, find everything that much faster. And when they run, a series, so just like in drama, when they run a series, I always say like, time each part of the series. So 3.2, 4.1, 3, just list those all in your paperwork and circle and star the ones, I'll say like the third pass, star, client, fourth, fifth, director, it's super political because there's 3, the production company wants to keep the director, and the production company want to keep getting hired by that agency, and that agency wants to please that client. So everything is going to be really client focused, but the client might not have an idea of what is possible on a filmmaking level. So they sort of are negotiating that all day long. You're going to do great because you're very sort of like, I always have to be a little bit more sophisticated than I am when I'm on a commercial, but you're just naturally more sophisticated. What else? Any other news? I'm so grateful to you guys for helping me get to the 10K mark so quickly. I teach. So here's what happens. I teach business students as well, right? I teach people how to create online courses and other online businesses. You'll see that that's sort of the third, even though this channel is so much about screenwriting and script supervision, you'll see that I have a creative entrepreneurship playlist, because as a writer, I'm always looking for ways to create more time for myself. Thanks, Josh. Josh on Instagram said, congrats on 10K. I was very happy. I was very surprised. The producer and director on my show were pretty blown away. They're like, what do you do that you have I said, I am a script supervision influencer, which is funny to say, but it's true. That's really what I am, right? And they went, wow, people like it. This wasn't what they said, but it was the subtext. people care about script supervision. Yes, as we should, right? We are a global community. But anyway, thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I have this creative entrepreneurship playlist. And in August, I was teaching this social media monetization masterclass. And I was like, and this is how you grow a channel. And I was teaching them how to grow a YouTube channel. And then I stopped and went, wait a minute. I'm not doing the things I'm teaching. So in August, I had 1,300 subscribers. And then I realized, wait a minute, I got to apply it to my own channel. If I'm not doing it, what the hell am I teaching it for? So I did. I started to implement everything that I was teaching. And here we are, 6 months later at 10K. So it can be done. It's actually easy. You know what? I was kind of delaying working on it because thanks, PK. I was kind of delaying working on it because I don't know why. I don't know why. It's so simple. Like the steps you can take to grow your channel. I will be offering that class again in April. It's called the Social Media Monetization Masterclass. And I also teach a larger business program called Coffee Break MBA, which sounds expensive, but it's really not. Those are way cheaper than most of my other courses. So, yeah, anyway, so sometimes you just got to practice what you preach and then it all falls into place. Yeah, and I think Tony might have a special, at least I feel like he used to, a special video on commercial workflow with Scripty. So I would look around and ask on the Digital Script Supervisors forum if anyone has a specific video relating to commercial workflow. I know that so I did take the Script E class. I say Script E instead of Scripty because as you guys know, when someone says Scripty with a Y or even remotely refers to me that way, my back gets up because it's people don't realize how infantilizing that can sound. The director on this show in prep asked me if it's okay that he calls me doll. He goes, look, I call every woman in my life, I call her doll. It's not anything derogatory, but I sense that he had great respect for my position. In fact, he really does. He consults with me in every single shot and every single scene, and very, very wonderful human. So I said, I'm so glad you asked me that. And I'm not offended by the word doll, but don't ever call me Scripty. And he said, what's that? I said, oh, and I don't know if he was kidding. He's from Brooklyn and he said he'd never heard the word Scripty. I said, hallelujah. Just know that if it ever comes out of your mouth, I'm going to say, yes, daddy. And I'm going to be say it in a pissy way. And he laughed. He goes, you say that like it's a bad thing. No, yeah. It's so bad when people call me. I have this swag. I have lots of different swag. I have 200 different designs. And one of them, says Director Whisper, but I have some that say, you can call me Scripty if I can call you Grippy, right? It's my backup. But no, all that to say, I took the Scripty course 3 times. Still couldn't wrap my brain around it. My brain works differently. I think I take it because Anthony will come. Anthony Patine comes and teaches it in person in Toronto, and I just like hanging out with him. But he did teach a commercial workflow in that course, so I'm sure there's, or at least hopefully there's a video that exists for Script E users. Script E, not Scripty. Does anyone? By the way, I'm curious. Does anyone get upset when they're called Scripty? I hate it. We have, I say had, he's still alive. He's still working. We have a veteran script supervisor in Toronto, Doug, who, he said people called him Script Girl for the first 20 years of his 45-year career, which is so, it's demeaning anyway. It's demeaning to anybody to be called a Script Girl, right? It's you're the ball boy in tennis, or you're just there to it's terrible. Words matter. I think words matter, especially given the history of our position. So with, I come around in circles sometimes. I was talking about the assistant script supervisor role taking on more prominence in North America. If you're curious how to use a script assistant, it differs. It can vary from team to team. But I did do 2 videos on it. In my script supervision playlist, there is a video called Assistant Script Supervisors Roundtable. I had a colleague in Toronto say to me, "Stop trying to make assistant script supervisor a thing. It's not a thing." And I was like, "Excuse me?" Because I had many, many students at the time who were working as assistant script supervisors. So I got a student in New Zealand. I had a student had Ada in the UK who was working in a script trainee capacity, which is a third sort of position that we could have on a 3-person script team, which will happen rarely, but it'll usually happen in the UK. But I had Ada in the UK. I had Katya in New Zealand. She's in Denmark now. And I had an Italian script supervisor. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name, but they're in the roundtable. And I had a Audrey Fallu, who is in Quebec, in Montreal, I should say, because in Montreal they have an assistant script supervisor role. And we did a panel, and I asked them how the assistant role is used in their countries, and they all said what I suspected. It differs from script supervisor to script supervisor how they're going to use the assistant position. The other one is an interview I did with Michaela Kim, who transitioned now. He has a different name now, but Michaela Kim was my assistant on 13 the musical, and the whole goal of that time, I'm actually credited as the mentor script supervisor. That was my actual role. I was the mentor. They were my assistant, and after I left the show, which was pre-planned that I was going to leave the show, nobody in Toronto was available at the time to do this big musical, and they didn't want to import someone from another place because they didn't want to house them. So they hired Michaela, who was a permit at the time, to be the script supervisor if I initiated. So I oversaw prep, and then I oversaw set for like 2 weeks, and then Michaela took over the rest of the show. And it was a brilliant, brilliant thing. It was kind of necessary, like besides the like security aspect for the show, to know that someone who had done a lot of indie features like Michaela could handle like a big A-list Netflix show. Besides that aspect of it, it was a movie with 14 lead actors who were teenagers, some of them who had never acted before because they were singers. So they might have done Broadway, but they had not been on camera. So so when you have shows like that, we had 4 cameras every day. By the way, I'm working with that DOP now. He's so cool. He's so great. I love that I get to work with him again. But anyway, on that video, I have a 90-minute interview with Michaela, just outlining how our working relationship worked. So if that can inspire anyone on how to use an assistant, I know that New York local is voting on enacting the assistant script supervisor role, which will be a huge, wonderful thing for the industry if that goes through, because it will cause a ripple effect where more and more North American producers will be used to the idea of like, hey, I would love an assistant on this show. It makes so much sense in television where we're prepping, the next episode and dealing with questions from the last episode and maybe block shooting 1 or 2 episodes or 3 even. It makes so much sense on a series. So, okay, time check. It is 11:56. Okay, on Instagram, if I go longer than 60 minutes, it won't let me keep the video up. So I'm going to tell you the offer. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone who has helped support both my Instagram and my YouTube. I actually have more followers on Instagram, but it's much harder to get 10K followers on YouTube. So I greatly appreciate the time you've all have taken to like and subscribe and to attend my lives. I was trying to think of an offer to reflect this moment. I know that many, and it might not apply to all of you, I know that many script supervisors also do other things like write. I also know that it is important for us as script supervisors, especially in television, which is the writer's medium, to really understand the writer's process. I happen to have 2 exceptional, phenomenal, and I'm saying this with humility, I'm very lucky of the caliber of students I've had over the years who've taught me stuff and gone on to have careers in film and television as writers. I have a career in film and television in film more than anything, but I am very proud of those courses. Whether or not you want to become a writer, here's the offer I have that is for the rest of the month. Okay. If you have been considering registering in my Director Whisper training program, which is my comprehensive training program for script supervisors, especially in the first 10 years of their careers. Yes, I can absolutely train you from scratch. I have helped people make very, very successful inroads in their career, even with zero experience, even with zero film school. Listen, I also train people who have master's degrees in film who have not learned our profession to the depth that it is. Okay. What I'm offering this week, and I'm not even emailing my list, I'm not even publicizing it anywhere else, because I want it to be for the people who took the time to watch this to the end and really watch this on YouTube. Say thank you. I'm going to include it's you can choose my TV writing or film writing program for free when you purchase the Director Whisperer training program. So the Director Whisperer training program is currently still the lowest priced comprehensive training program of its kind for script supervisors that is available in the English speaking world. It's $12.97 US, and there are payment plans. And my writing programs, the core training, are $4.97 US. They're 20-hour core training programs that include 1 year of idea jams to work out your premises, character work. I'm very big on character work. You can watch my writing playlist, my screenwriting playlist, to see sort of how I lean into that as a writing teacher. And I think it's the reason I've had multiple students in Canada, the US, and the UK sell shows, even first scripts. Like, it's shocking to me how many first-time writers have sold scripts out of my program. So normally, if you were to get the Director Whisperer training program and, let's say, my TV writing or my feature program, that would be my math is so bad, like 1,800 US, something like that. You would get both for the price of the Director Whisperer training program. So that's my offer this week. It might not appeal to both of you, to all of you. However, just know that even if you never have any intentions of being a screenwriter, understanding the writer's process will really make you appreciate a lot about how we serve the writers. Oh, I have another mug that says Writer Whisperer. Let me just post the link to first of all, bit.ly.Saioni, that link will lead you to my link tree, which has all my courses. So you can click on Director Whisperer, you can click on From Shtick to Script, which is my TV comedy writing program, or Make 'em Laugh for 90 Minutes, which is my feature. So you can see the full course descriptions for all of them. I do teach through a comedy lens, but about 40% of my writing students do not even write comedy. They just like the process that I teach. Okay. Oh my God, I've been going for 60 minutes. Thank you so much. I'm so humbled and grateful for all your support. I'm teaching a story editing class today, so I'm going to go teach that now. Thank you so much. Rock your careers, and I'll see you again. I go live as much as I can, even here. So I'll see you again within the month, probably after I wrap my show on March 12th. Bye. Thank you. Oh, hi, Zelda. Thank you. Bye, Instagram. Okay, I never know how to turn off Instagram. It's so funny. How do I turn off the live on Instagram? I totally forget this. There we go. Okay. Oh, I'm still live. Sorry. I thought you guys were gone. I'm still turning off Instagram. Okay. Bye.